Hi guys, this is Dr. Sadasivam once again with you to discuss a very important topic, that is adoption of electric vehicles in the country. There's been much talk about electric vehicles for the last few years, but in spite of that, you will see that the adoption of electric vehicles has not picked up speed. Of course, the government has taken lots of efforts in terms of improving the adoption, and today we are going to look at some of those initiatives, and we will also look at what some veterans of the industry, one is Nagesh Baswanhalli, who is the CEO of Greaves Ampere, and Naveen Munjal of Hero Electric subsidiary. So we will also see what they have to say on the subject. Now, if you look at the statistics, a meager 1.2% of the total vehicles sold are electric vehicles. So typically in this post, we are going to talk about two-wheelers, three-wheelers, cars and buses. So 1.2% of the total vehicles sold are electric vehicles. The government has been doing lots and lots of things, but if you look at adoption of 1%, that seems very meager. Of course, the government has been taking lots and lots of initiatives in terms of pushing the electric vehicle adoption in our country. Now, recently, the government has increased the subsidies both for two-wheelers as well as for three-wheelers. So with the step of the government, one can expect that the purchase price of the vehicles will go down. Will it make any difference in the ecosystem? That's what we're going to see, and I will also try to put forward what Nagesh and Naveen Munjal they have to say on this. Now, we are aware of the government initiative called as FAME. FAME stands for Faster Adoption and Manufacturing of Electric Vehicles, which includes hybrid also. You have FAME 1, certain initiatives were done, and now it is FAME 2. And some of these policies have been revised, and the subsidies have been increased by 50%. So these subsidies have gone up only with a view to incentivize the buyers, so that you will be able to increase the number of buyers, and as a result of which we will be able to increase the adoption. So obviously we can expect the prices to come down it is expected it might come down to 60,000 rupees on an average. Now, there were some fear factors in the minds of customers. The main important is the initial purchase price, and these subsidies can bring down the purchase price, but it needs to be seen if the OEMs will pass on these benefits to the customers in terms of a reduced purchase price, because one of the important objectives of providing these subsidies is the manufacturers will pass on this to the customers, as a result of which the prices will come down, the demand elasticity will play its part. But if the manufacturers quote your increase in commodity prices, your increased palladium, rhodium and all that, and they don't reduce, then the national objective cannot be met. So that's a caveat that the government needs to constantly monitor, support, and they should ensure that the OEM they all pass on this reduced price to customers. Now, the second issue is the battery replacement, because each of these batteries, they have a fixed shelf life, after which you need to renew the battery, and the cost is quite high, and so we are not getting into that subject of battery costs, etc. So we will try to put up another video which will provide some perspective on that aspect. So as far as the TCO of the electric vehicle is concerned, in any case, it's far lower compared to the internal combustion engines. TCO stands for total cost of ownership. So with these subsidies increasing, I think one can expect that it will be approximately 15,000 per 1 kilowatt hour in place of 10,000 rupees earlier. And over and above that, the government has also lifted the cap, which was 20% of the ex-dealer price. Of course, the capping will continue to remain, but the capping has been increased from 20% to 40% now. Now, as regards the price, as regards the running cost, obviously electric vehicles, you can compare with the IC engines on these two parameters as far as petrol cars are concerned. That is, the operating economics are very much in favor of the electric vehicles. The only issue was the purchase price, and this is a very welcome move as far as the government step of increasing the subsidies are concerned. Now this reduces the initial price. Now there are certain pain points as far as the adoption of electric vehicles is concerned. One is the industry awareness. Many are not aware of what this EV is. So though people get a lot to hear about electric vehicles, both in terms of television interviews, in terms of news items in the press, televisions, etc. But generally people lack awareness. Even today there is a proclivity, inclination of customers to go for IC engines, that is petrol and diesel. And second, of course, awareness can be built. I think government is working on it. A lot of OEMs are working on it. OEMs can play a very important role in this. The second is the initial price, and one can hope with these subsidies increase coming into this, that can be worked out. So this price parity, the unit economics will start playing their role, which will make electric vehicles more and more competitive with your IC engines, petrol and diesel. And the next is the range anxiety. That is one of the greatest issues, because what one tank full of IC engine can take you, I don't know, thousands of kilometers. You have this range issue as far as the battery cars are concerned. But I think over a period of time, technology is something which can solve these kind of problems, and a lot of R&D is happening, and probably they will come up with some technology where the range can be increased to 750 kilometers or 1000 kilometers. We really do not know. So these are some of the factors that will ensure some kind of a paradigm shift from IC engines to battery cars, right? So some of the benefits, if you see, there is benefit for the environment, but as you know, customers are not bothered about your environment, your pollution, your ECG framework. Those are things which are positive externalities, and no customer is bothered about it, though it applies to you and me also. They are more bothered about the price, the operational cost, your TCO, etc. That's what the customer looks at, but that's fine. The price is competitive nowadays, and secondly, the batteries are being made portable. In fact, Naveen Munjal, in one of his interviews, he said that he is working on some batteries which are portable. If you don't have a charging unit in the basement or anywhere, these batteries are portable. You can bring them home and you can have them charged in your house. All these are being done, and they are also increasing their product lineup, which means there is a flexibility to choose from electric vehicles which can run at 25 kilometers an hour. And for these cars, no licenses are required, no registration is required. And there is a second range of vehicles which can run in the city speed, which can run at say 45 kilometer speed, and there are 80 kilometer range vehicles, and all that product lineups. We will try to put all this in a separate video. So irrespective of whatever categories these vehicles fall in, the costs will be far less, and the price parity with respect to the IC engines can be improved largely. But yes, there is a very big issue, which is the charging infrastructure, which we have not discussed so far. Now let me give you some statistics in terms of what it is. Hero company, they have already established 1600 charging stations. Look at those efforts. They are also on the process of training mechanics. Now they claim that the mechanics understand the operations of electric vehicles. They know electronic mobility, they know all those controls, and once this ecosystem is created, then your price, parity, etc., and some of the anxieties that customers had all these years with respect to electric vehicles can be sorted out. So it still remains to be a start, especially considering only 1.2% of the total vehicles registered are electric. It is still a start. It is in the early stages. Lot needs to be done, but that's a very good start, right? Now if you look at some of the statistics as far as the charging infrastructure is concerned, because that's one of the most important factors for adoption of electric vehicles. Today India has only 1,800 charging stations. If you look at the demand, 400,000 charging stations are required, my dear friends. to meet its requirement of 2 million cars by 2026 as outlined in the FAME 2 document. Now, where is 400,000 stations and where is 1800, right? But yes, things are on the anvil, things are being done. Once it reaches a certain level of threshold, then there will be an exponential increase, and we are on the way to achieve the target of 400,000 charging stations by 2026 to meet the requirement of 2 million, guys. 2 million. Okay, now as far as Nagesh Baswanhalli is concerned, Nagesh, you all know, you remember, he's an automotive veteran. He used to work with Fiat Chrysler company, excellent guy. Now he's the chief executive for Greaves. They have their own electric lineups, Greaves. And in one of his interviews, he's made his points very clear. And he shared that the adoption has increased quite a lot, and the volumes in Q4 of the last year was very, very strong. In fact, he shared this figure. More than 22,000 vehicles have been sold, which is a growth of 20% compared to the last year. And he also talked about how they are doing everything possible to ramp up their production capacity at Ranipet, and their obvious plan is to increase the capacity from 100,000 to 1 million units, right? Which is 10 times, guys. That's the kind of plans Nagesh has, and they've already, started organizing capex towards that objective. So one can hope that there will be an exponential increase in the adoption of EV vehicles in the coming years, and the commitment of the CEOs of these OEMs are very clearly seen, whether it is Naveen Munjal or whether it is Nagesh Baswanhalli or it is your Rajesh Jejurikar of Mahindra. And you know how that is how these things are working. They will all be working on a 5-year plan to make it possible. As everyone says that maybe in the next 5 years, one can hope that the adoption will be as high as 20%, and the target is approximately 4 million units by 2026, right? Which means you can see going up from 1.5 lakh units to about 4 million is what is the target set, and everybody is working, in full steam. And certain important factors are there as far as the adoption of electric vehicles is concerned. First is the finance facility. The second is supply chain needs to be extremely robust. Thirdly, there are lots and lots of components which are imported. So localization is extremely important. I remember I used to work for Maruti at one point of time when the imported component percentage used to be 50% used to be imported from Japan, including your cylinder blocks, your cylinder heads, oil pumps, carburetors, etc. But over a period of time, indigenization went up very high levels because of the commitment. That was the journey of Maruti Udyog, especially during the initial fledgling years. I'm talking about the initial years of late 80s and early 90s, and we can hope the same thing had to be happening in electric cars also. Not just that, battery is another area where a lot needs to be done. Your charging stations, your supply chains, your financing, the ecosystem, etc. Now, the government has announced a PLI scheme. This is one of the best initiatives. This is PLI, which is Production Linked Incentives. The government of India has announced more than 18,000 crore for adoption of electric vehicles. Guys, so obviously this is for charging infrastructure and host of other things. And with this liquidity infusion of 18,000 crores to the industry, one can hope that the industry will grow leaps and bounds, and against the target that the government has kept for itself for 2022. The government had kept a target of 1 million cars. Against that, we have been able to achieve only 5%. The second wave of COVID, there are teething issues. Man proposes, God disposes. But let's see, we have the resolve, we have the initiative. The CEOs of these OEMs, whether it is Naveen Munjal, whether it is Nagesh, whether it is Rajesh Jejurikar of Mahindra, they are all committed, and one can hope that this adoption will increase in the months and years to come. So as far as the FAME 2 goals, we talked about the government targets. The government hopes that we will be able to sell 10 lakh cars, 10 lakh two-wheelers. Passenger cars will be somewhere around 55,000 and buses will be somewhere around 7,000. But against this target of 10 lakh for two-wheelers, we have been able to achieve only 58,000 in two-wheelers against a target of 5 lakh. We have been able to achieve only 15,000, and against a target of 55,000 for passenger cars, I think we have been able to achieve only 1,500, 2,000, 2,500. As regards buses, as against a target of 7,000, which could be few hundreds, right? So anyone can understand that new technology takes time, but all said and done, the tailwinds are there, the traction is there, the demand is there, the government is committed to it. The CEOs of automotive companies, we have been talking about your Hero, your Fiat, your Greaves, your Mahindra, they are all committed. And not, of course, Maruti, Hyundai, I don't know what they are doing. So Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, they have been doing a lot on this. They've been allotting lands. In Coimbatore, a new plant of Greaves is coming up, and all of which will propel the future demand for electric cars. It's not just important for the sake of country, for positive externalities, but it is also very important for the automotive ecosystem, right? Okay guys, I think I've been able to give you some data on the adoption of electric vehicles in our country. We are closely monitoring these developments, and we will come out with more